How to render your Minecraft builds in Blender has been a question for me for a while, and I looked it up and I could only find videos for Cinema 4D and Chunky. Chunky is free and it's quite nice, however not professional quality. Cinema 4D professional quality, but it is paid and you have to pay quite a bit of money to get it. So I made this video after researching for a long time how to do this, render something in Blender. And I made it for you. Now you can have this information. So we will be rendering this object here, this tower. Also, special thanks to Seta, since he did inspire the video a little bit. He was one of the inspirations for the video. Also, I will not be showing you how to get your builds onto the Java Edition single player from a multiplayer world on Java or from the Windows 10 edition, or how to change your build into a schematic for Mineways. And also, the programs we will be needing are Java Edition of Minecraft, Mineways, and Blender, as well as Krita for the After Effects, which actually I need to pin that to the start menu. Be pinning that to the taskbar so I could use that later. So now let's put that into the thing. So pretty much what Mineways is going to do is it's going to make a 3D cube covering up the entire thing to make sure that it gets every single block, and it's going to change it to an OBJ file format, which Blender can read. So now we need to exit out of this and open up Mineways. Let's go into my folder, go into it, which you guys should know how to do that, but the one you click is Mineways Windows batch file. Now that is a bit of a weird thing, and that little thing right there is because my files are in a different format because of some mods that I have downloaded. Anyways, top left hand corner, click Open World, go down to whichever world, mine's YouTube, and then we just have to scroll over to wherever our build is, and for me it's way over here. Because for these videos I had to make sure you couldn't see anything in the background. Here we go, here is the build. So I would recommend just do this. However, it's going to want you to do it at grass level. I would not recommend that. Now if I go one below, the grass is still a little bit purple, however now it's one block low, so it's see-through. I'd recommend going at least one block above grass, unless you want the terrain. In some cases you do want the terrain, especially if you're doing something with terrain. So anything you're going to want inside of your thing, you want inside of this, anything you're going to render, you're going to want inside of this cube. I'd recommend also to keep this at 255, because you never know how tall your build is exactly. Unless you do, which I know how tall my build is, so I can easily just go like this. If you go too low, it'll even show it cutting the build like that. I recommend just always keeping it 120, unless you exactly know it's not going to mess anything up from doing this, which in most cases you don't, so I recommend just keeping it at 255. Next, top left hand corner, press File, and then go to Export for rendering. Then I'm just going to delete this previous one, and then name it YT Tower Render. That's when I'm going to have it. Then it opens up this window here. It looks really complicated. We do not use any of the things in here. There might be a few cases when you do, but if you do need it, then you can look up what all of these mean in a different video. So yeah, just press OK. Now we have the OBJ file. Next, we will need to go into Blender. So just got to open up Blender, through that. Pretty simple there. Also, we can close this as well. Now I'm in a 2.79. You might be in a later one. In fact, a newer one. In fact, I think I should be in a newer one. I don't know. I don't know if there's an update. Anyways, I'm gonna get some basic facts out of the way after I do something real quick. Okay, there we go. So to move around, you can just use the middle mouse button to zoom in and out. You also use it to scroll around like this when you click it. And then to move around, you also need to use the shift and middle mouse, and you can do this, which is very useful. So you pretty much use these options to move around in your scene here. Then also to center yourself on an object, you press the point button and the number pad, and it allows you to do that, which is extremely useful as well. So now let's get ourselves in and press the delete button, which is the shortcut for that is X. So press X, then left click on it, and I'll just recommend deleting everything in the scene. After this, we just need to import our object. Now I'm going to start going really slow because it's actually quite complicated. It's actually not that complicated. Blender isn't actually that complicated. It's just that there's a lot of buttons, so it's easy to get lost. It seems daunting at first, but really it's quite easy. Go to top left hand corner, press File, go down to Import, then go to Wavefront OBJ. Next, we just need to go to the file that we set, you set when you download MineWays, and mine is this file. So double click on YT Tower Render.obj or whatever yours is named, and it'll be way up there. Before we move it or do anything else, we need to scale it down. So to scale it down, you just have to press S and move inward like that. I mean, it's super easy to scale your build down. That's to make sure that it will stay in camera view, because if it's too big, it's sort of like the render distance of Minecraft. It will sort of render some stuff out. It'll start like clipping it off and cutting it off a little bit. So I'd recommend try keeping it at that. There we go. Should be able to hear me a little bit better now. Move the microphone up a little bit. There we go. So next, after this, after we scale it down and move it over, we need to also have it with the textures on it. Now obviously right now there are textures on it, and actually I'm going to show you an example that there are textures. You don't need to pay attention to what I'm doing currently. This is just an example of the textures are currently on it. As you can see, there's textures in this, but if we rendered it out, if I put this in the rendered view, it's just going to look horrible. It just looks horrible this way, and that's what it would look like as if we rendered it. It just doesn't work whatsoever. Now, in order to fix that, we actually have to go into Cycles Render, which actually, yeah, there we go. Go back to Cycles Render, and it's white, and there's a light source right there, so we know it is white. It does not have a texture currently. So we have to add in a texture to all the separate blocks. Luckily, one of the settings in the thing in there chooses whether or not it's every individual block or if the blocks are combined together. Luckily, it's automatically set to the blocks are combined together in different sections. These are all the stones. So let's, oops, Control Z if you mess something up, like this. To fix it, just press Control Z and it will fix that. So let's add in some textures. So I'm going to remove this menu. You can press N to open and close that menu, and press T to open and close that menu. So N and T. So keep that in mind. So we just need to go over to the top right hand corner and split the view. So next, after we split the view, actually I want to split this view from the bottom part as well, so I can have 3 views. So I'm going to have this view later on be my rendered view, this one be my object view, and this one be my node view. I don't know why this is the node view. This one should be the render view, but whatever, you get the point. So I'm going to go into the node editor, and then I'm going to click on one of these objects. So you can go over here into the properties and click on material and press new material, or material, and you can customize the material and the surface and stuff. But really you should press use nodes. Now you don't have to do that every time. There's a button right here that you can use to do use nodes or not, and that will allow you to choose whether or not it has nodes. Use nodes because it is a whole lot more efficient and better than the other option, which no one ever uses, so I don't even know what that is really. So to add something new into the menu, such as a lamp in this section or a new little node in this section, we have to press Shift and A. We will need an image texture, so we need to go down to Texture, go over, then go down to Image Texture. Next, we need a principled shader. Go to Shader and go down to Principled BSDF, or you could search that up if you can't find it. So to hook it up, you just need to have the node, press this yellow button here, and sort of drag it over to the other yellow dots. This is how a node works. You can also do that with the green. So the surface is the output of the BSDF. So this is what it should look like. I would recommend keeping the roughness decent, like a down pretty much, and keeping the metal down as well, because you can change those and you can look up how to use this, and I'll be explaining a little bit right now. However, most of the time you don't edit these unless you want to make something more reflective, which I actually have done before, and it works really nicely because that means you can make the quartz more reflective than the stone, and you can add in effects like that. You can make the wood not very reflective. You can make, you can change how the material will respond to the lighting. However, I like to keep most of my blocks around the same. But anyways, so since we already imported the OBJ, it automatically puts these right up for us to see. So use the RGBA, whatever your thing's called. Mine's called YT Tower Render, and RGBA.png. So now if we look at it, now it has a texture, which is really nice. Now that it has that texture, that's going to really help us out a lot. And actually, let me close this Minecraft menu. So to actually do the rest of these blocks, it's actually quite easy. Really, the only thing you need to do, actually, I'm going to close this view. Oops. To close yeah, there we go, that's better. So we just need to right click and scroll over everything, then press Control C, then click on a new material, press this button here, and then press X, then Control V. It's actually really simple, and I'm just going to rush through it because it's the same thing over and over again, and it's really simple. Oops. Really simple, so you could do that in no time at all. So this is one thing I like that I like about it, that it doesn't take a lot of time to do this. I thought it was actually going to take a lot more time than this whenever I was trying to do it at first, but luckily it doesn't take very much. Okay, now let's go to this item. Same way with most of Blender, it looks really complicated. Really, it's not as complicated as you think. You just have to get used to it, and it does take a little bit of time to get used to it, so that's a bit of a downfall with it. Besides, sort of like Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D is a lot easier to learn how to use, however you have to pay a buku's of money to buy it, so I would not recommend that. So now we need to add in a lighting source. Now we could add in a lamp in this section using Shift A and go to lamp, but that's not a very good option. We need to add in a mesh by pressing Shift A, going to mesh, then plane, and then we need to move our plane out into open view over here. There we go. So now we have our plane. We need to sort of rotate it to a good, a good position. I won't probably have it like this. I'll probably have a corner view. There we go. So this is sort of how I'm going to have my lighting system set up, is with this object. So the object will be the lighting. So I'm going to put it up like here, though we're going to need to increase the size. So down here, next to global, we can open that up, and now we can increase the size. I would recommend keeping the size pretty decently large, because I'm going to have it pretty far away, because we don't want it to show up in our render, because it does have some weird effects when it shows up in the render. So I would say keep it decently far away. You don't have to have it that far, but decently far away. Now that we have this selected, we need to go into over here and press New Material, and it automatically says use nodes, which is really nice, and we can delete everything in here. We need to go to Shift A, press go to Shaders and go to Emission Shader, then press Shift A again and go to Output, then go to Lamp Output, because we are making a lamp. The color is white currently. I would recommend keeping that at white and then changing what the color is later. This is where having the split view right here will be helpful. So I'll have this as a rendered view. Actually, I'm going to have this as the rendered view and change this one to the node editor here. Node editor here. So that's how you open up the node editor. Hopefully you saw that a second ago and I wasn't too fast, because that can be an issue. But anyway, so now that we have the nodes like that, we can also have our rendered view. So let's render this out. Oops, wrong button. So right in the middle, we can see that for you it's probably a solid, but you can press this material thing to show materials, or press the render to show it being rendered. So that's sort of what it looks like being rendered at the moment. But if we look at this, we can increase the strength of it. So we can change it to 9 or 10. I'd probably say make it pretty bright. because at the moment it's pretty important for it to be quite bright since it's far away, and it's supposed to be the brightest one of these. So I would say probably about a 10 would be good for the one I have. Of course yours is going to be different, but that's what I'm going to put mine as. I'm going to have mine at quite a nice yellow color because I want it to be like the sun. But next we need to press Control C. Well, actually we need to go into our editing view here and press this object, press Control C, V, and move it around. Now first off, we need to make this one white because this is going to be our clouds. If anything, maybe slightly yellow, but for the most part, actually I'm going to make it white. Exactly. Oops. Make it white. So 1, 1, and 1. There we go. We can have it exactly white. Maybe a little bit not that bright, and decrease the strength of it. But next we will need to move this around. Oops, wrong point of view. So we need to sort of rotate this. We can easily rotate it by pressing R, and we can rotate it in any sort of way we want. I would recommend just press Control C and then Control V and then move it around again. You know, rotate it so that we get the perfect view. This is basically the clouds. So that's the point of these, is that they're supposed to be clouds, which seems really weird. Why do we have clouds in here? Well, it's the 3-point lighting. So even if you're doing an interior render, most of the time people have white and yellow lights, or there's a window next to it that makes it look like there is where there's a yellow light. And also many times they have it where there is a lot of white lights, because many people's lights in their house are white lights as well. So I mean, you sort of have to keep that in mind, that there's multiple lights in your area, which will increase the amount of if you try to keep that in mind, it will increase the amount of detail in your build, and most of the time make it look a lot better as well. One thing I actually did forget to do is make these invisible to the camera. So to do that, you need to click on the object in your 3D viewport here, then go to Object, go down to the bottom, press Cycle Settings, make it invisible to the camera, and just do that to all of them. I'm just going to make them all invisible to the camera. There we go. And there's one last one left. There we go. That is better. So now I can go here and look at how it's doing. It doesn't seem to be doing all that well. We need some more white light, so I'm going to increase the strength of these where there is a little bit of white light. You know, maybe a 5. I don't want to make it that powerful because, you know, it is supposed to be the clouds, and the clouds don't have that great of an effect on the scene. But they do add in some light, so you want to make sure you do have that, especially if there's a lamp. If you're doing an interior render, it's going to be a little bit different because there's, you know, lamps and other things like that. So there's a lot of different things that can be going on in your scene. Let's see, I think that's about right now. Let's see how that looks. I think that's about enough white light, though I think there might be a little bit too much. A lot of this is testing out what will look good, especially since I want the other side to have a lot of shadows to it, because I want that to be a lot more blue. So I'd probably keep it more like this, where there's a little bit of white light coming through on the other side, but not a whole lot. I mean, I do want some white light, and as you can see, there is a little bit of white light there, but I want to mainly keep it more on the top point of view. I think that's about perfect now. Let's see. The next part we will need to do is do another Control-C-V of one of these lights and put it behind it. So I'm going to rotate this where it's in where it's facing the build, and this is basically going to be the sky. So the sky adds in a lot of blue light to your scene, so it makes all of the shadows blue. So the shadows should have a slight tint of blue to them, like this color of blue. So let's see, and probably need to decrease the strength of it. There we go. I think that's about right. And I'm going to Control-C and V this a few times. Actually, let me check and see how well this works. I want to try something, and you will not probably know how to do this. That's fine. I'm going to try something real quick. And I'm doing the wrong one. Let's see if this is going to help at all. If this works, then I will show you how to do this, but if it's not, then it doesn't really matter. Just testing out some ideas of what will and what will not work. There we go, that is better. So I'm basically just going to... Whoops. Yeah, I don't think that's really helping that much, so I'm just going to delete that. Just keep yours how you had it, and don't do what I tried doing, since it's not really helping at all. Let me go back to object mode. So next I'm just going to Control-CV and make a few more of these, sort of like this. You know, just a few more really far away, especially, because you want there to be some blue lights in like every part of it. So, you know, you want it some like a few of these around the entire thing, so there's a little bit of blue light everywhere. So maybe less in the front. So maybe this one needs to be like 1 strength. But the more lights you add, the more there are in render time. And also this needs to be rotated. There we go, that's better. But that needs to be decreased as well. And this one needs to be a bit more yellow. Because I want this side to be a lot brighter than the other side. I want this to be a shadow. That might be a bit bright. You know, it takes a lot of just trial and error to make sure this works. I believe we are ready to render it out. So let's put in our camera. So I'm going to put in a camera, sort of where this camera view is. So we just press Shift A and put in a camera right there. Also, we can just easily just move that up and put that into view. But it does seem like it was behind it. Oops. Oh well, there we go. Press 0 on the number pad. It'll put you in a camera view. Then press N. Go down and in until you see Lock Camera to View. That'll allow you to move your camera around and see exactly how everything is doing. I'd recommend putting this in the render view instead, but yeah, so let's put that out and redo that in the render view. So lock camera to view, and let's undo that, then press 0. There we go, I believe that's how we want it. And also mine needs to be this way. I'd recommend going to the properties, camera, then changing it to be, you know, like 920 by 1080. That will make it look a little bit better if you're doing something similar to what I'm doing, but unfortunately, you know, mine will not allow me to do that because I'm doing this one for the thumbnail for my YouTube video, so it needs to be 1080, which is unfortunate for myself, but it is perfectly fine, and it will still look good either way. Do this, make it go down a little bit, make it look smaller so it's a bit farther away. So this will make it look a bit small. Next thing, I would probably recommend if you turn that off so you could zoom in a little bit and turn it back on so that you could see everything that you're doing, because it is a bit hard to see whenever you have all these windows open. And here we go, I think I close that open, make that a little bit bigger over here. There we go, that is better. Then let's get ourselves out of this camera view and press Shift A and add in another mesh, a cube. So let's add in this cube mesh and put it right under the tower. So here we go. By now you should be pretty good at adding in meshes, even though we haven't really added in that many. You should be pretty decent at it, so I'm not going to really explain too much anymore how to add in a mesh, which might be a bit unfortunate for you, but you know, too bad. I'm trying to make a video here. It's very difficult. So shrink it down and increase its size by a massive amount, like what I'm doing, because you want it to be cover your entire scene, and I believe it does. Yes, it does. That is better. And then we need to make it move it up a little bit, because it should be right flush with the build, and I believe it is now. There we go. So now it's flush with the build. We can add in some effects to this one. So we can press new material in our node editor, and we can just add in a just plain principled shader, Pretty simple. We just did that a minute ago, so you maybe don't remember how to do that, but sort of do, so that shouldn't take you too long to do. I want to change the color a little bit, and you can actually add an image texture to this. You can even add in a wood texture. Let's see. So you can add in like some more advanced image textures, sort of like this, and add in some bump map. Add in some bump mapping and stuff like that. So you can add in that kind of stuff to it, and add in an image and do stuff like that. And YT, oops, wrong one. But yeah, you can add in some images like that. In fact, I'm gonna try it. I almost forgot how to do this, so it may not work that well. Now let's see. Let's see how this works. And it is there. And I do not believe that worked because I suck at doing these things. Oh, there it is. There's that. And also, yeah, I don't exactly remember how to do it. There's like these bump maps. Though there will be there will be one of these in the description below on how to do that. So that it will be pretty nice. And I'll probably be testing out a few of those actually. That is pretty nice. Actually, it's 2 image textures, so that's actually how you do it. So you have 1 image texture for this, and this is probably not gonna. I'm not gonna show you how to do that. I'm not gonna show you how to do that. That is a bit too much. Let's just do a basic metal, something like this, and just make it a metal, something like this, and make it look really nice. Decrease the roughness. There we go. So we have a nice reflection of our stuff in here. Though it's going to be a bit grainy, unfortunately, but that is perfectly fine. We can fix that. Let's see. Let's make it a little bit metal. I don't know. I don't want to make it that metallic, but I do want to make it decently metallic. I think I want to just decrease the roughness. Yeah, let's decrease the roughness by quite a bit and decrease the metal. I think I want to keep it like this. It seems like there's a bit of some fireflies in there. If there's fireflies in here, you will probably need to decrease that quite a bit, because that can be an issue. Fireflies are little specks of white, and that can mess up your render like really easily. So let me see where something is, and then I'll show you how to find it. Once I find it, it is somewhere in here, though I do not exactly remember perfectly where it is, though I know it is in here. So first off, we need to go to, oh, never mind, I thought it was there. Okay, let's see. They are called Caustics. What they do is they're the reflectiveness of materials and like the shadow and stuff. So if you turn that off, then that will help a lot. I don't think it will help that much in our case because there's no glass. It mainly helps in glass. So if you do decide to add any glass to your thing, then I would probably remove Caustics. In the 18 ways to increase your render speed of video I have in the description, it also mentions this, and he shows you where it is, though I cannot seem to find it for the life of me. Though I'm pretty sure it's in here. So I'm going to go over, let's just slight look through and see if I can find it. Here it is. It's in light pathways, reflective caustics, and refractive caustics. As you can see, it already started rendering it a little bit differently, and it does seem that it has removed some of those freckles. So let's see, turn it back on, and let's see what is the difference. Seems like there is a pretty big difference, though it does make things look a little bit worse. I'm going to keep it because I don't think there'll be any fireflies. I would say remove that after you try rendering it. So we're going to try rendering it in a second, and if it still has the same issue, then we will have to turn this off and on. So I believe we are done with this, and next we will need to actually start rendering it. So I'm going to show you one thing about rendering. We actually close everything. We actually don't need any of these open anymore, besides the render view. So let us actually render an image. Right now it is trying to do this, and it's going to take a very long time. mainly because it is not set up on the wrong setting. Actually, it's not going to take very long because it's set up really grainy. It has a lot of issues. It's not going to work very well whatsoever. It's going to be really grainy. We want a smooth texture, and I'll show you how to do that right now. I got this based off of Blender Guru's video that I mentioned that is in the description. So to actually do that, we actually need to set this up on, actually I'm going to keep it at 50 so you can get sort of a point of view. So light bounces can actually be set at like 1 or 2. So like you need to set your light bounces to 2 because that will help you a lot. Whenever light bounces are set up lower, it will decrease the render time. Actually, if I turn this back on, you may actually see that it's taking a little bit less time because there's less light bounces to worry about. Though it's also going to do a different thing that's going to mess up some stuff as well. The one thing that's messing up is the sampling. The sampling needs to be at like a much higher. If you're doing a final render, you might need it to be at 2500 if you're doing a final render. However, as you can see, it's going to take a ridiculously long amount of time. But you can also see that it's smoothing it out and smoothing it and smoothing it and making sure every pixel is exactly what it needs to be. So that will help a lot as well. However, it's also a very low amount of pixels because I don't have it set up all the way. It is by default, it does you can use this to decrease or increase the amount of pixels. So if I do this again and press render, actually I need to change the pixels on that to like 100, well, samples actually, 250. I'm going to set that as 250, and actually let me show you. So you can use this to decrease or increase the amount of pixels. As you can see, there's a lot less pixels. So if I increase this up to 70%, and I press render again, and it's going to be a whole lot more pixels. And then 100% will be a whole lot more pixels than 70%. So each time there's going to be more and more pixels, which will increase the render time more and more. But as you can see, it's still very, let's say, grainy. It doesn't need to be gray. You need to make sure you remove as much grain as you possibly can, because you can see that grain from far away. It's not very noticeable, but you can see it. So there is 2 ways to fix that. So let me decrease to 100 and then show you an example in 100 so it gives you a better sort of view of it. So whenever you do this as 100 samples, as you can see, it's going to be very grainy, and that's what it's going to look like. It just looks pixely. It's not going to look very good. One thing you can do is go to, oh, we're on button, is go to this button here. Yeah, there we go. The button right next to the camera, and it's the like the render layers. Yeah, that's what it's called, render layers. Go down to the bottom and press denoising. Now remember, you see how grainy this is? What denoising will do is it's like an after processing thing that will allow it to be a lot smoother. So after it gets done with this, it's going to re-go over that a little bit and smooth it out. Now the only thing is it's not going to fix everything. Now it's like right there, as you can see, it smoothed it out a lot, and it's probably going to finish up all of these. So this is sort of the effects that you can get. Now obviously, as you can see that's not a very sharp edge. It looks like they're connected because what it did is it's basically softening it. So it's making the edges softer. So you're going to lose some of those sharp details. However, it's going to enable it to be a lot smoother. As you can see, there's a massive difference between the two. The smoother version definitely looks a lot better than the version with all of the grain. As you can see, it's a lot better. Also, to increase your render time if you're using your CPU, if you do not have a strong computer that has a GPU, you can set it up as a GPU compute right there, and that will increase the render speed if you give it like a larger tile size, which this is the tile size, like that. These things, let me show you again. These are the tile size, so that's 64 by 64, I believe, in tile size. Let's see wherever it is. The tile size is in this section somewhere, though I have it probably, like, I have it covered up probably somewhere around here, and I believe it's here. So under performance, there it is, we can change the tile size. Right now it's 64 pixels by 64 pixels. Now if you're using your CPU, you need to have that at like 16 pixels by 16 pixels. Now everyone's computer is different, so it might be a little bit different. I'd recommend testing out, if you're using your CPU, test out 8 by 8, 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64 by 64, and test out that range and see whichever one works for you. Let's retry rendering that again. You can see that first off it looks like it's going faster, but it also is going faster. It will render faster this way. On average, of course everyone's computer is different. However, it's already at 2% done, and it's definitely going pretty fast. Especially for longer renders, it will increase the time. Decrease the time. Then also it already has everything smoothed out really nicely by now. One thing I would recommend doing first, before going to this extreme of, doing the denoising, which I would actually probably recommend going into the denoising section and decreasing the strength of it to 25, to 0.25, because it's smoothing out some of the details that you want. I want some of those details, especially since Minecraft has a lot of sharp edges. Oh, that's bad. Let's not render an animation. Here we go. See how that looks? That looks a lot better, as well as you could also increase the sample rate as well to get rid of another bit of that. So I recommend keep it about 0.25 or 0.5 is good. So it really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like a render that's supposed to be really fast, then 0.25, and then do everything as fast as you can and decrease the size of what you're doing it to 50%, and decrease your samples a lot as well. So then you could see, oh, does the render look good currently at the settings I have it? Do I need to move anything around? How is it going to look whenever it's finished? So that's what these settings are for whenever you lower their quality, so you can get an idea of what's going to look like before you actually go through all the trouble of letting your computer render for hours on end. So to fix some of this, you just have to set it up as to do a final render. I recommend it's okay to keep your final render at the low light balances, but one thing I would recommend doing to make it look better is the sampling, which this thing has a lot of buttons, so I have to go find it. Let's see. Here it is. So in the render samples, you need to increase that. A final render could have easily 2,500 samples. Now don't go over that. 10,000 samples is pointless. If you do 2,500 samples and compare it to 10,000 samples, there's going to be no difference. So use a decent amount of samples and use the least possible that you know is going to look good. So if you know that 1,000 is enough, or if you know that you only need 512, especially with whenever you have this thing smoothing some of it out, if you know you only need 512, then only use 512. That will increase your render time by a lot. And then also there's post-processing that you can do to increase the quality as well, sharpen some things up, increase some other quality type deals. But yeah, here we go. So let's see how this is looking. It does seem that it is quite a bit better, though it isn't very sharp. That's the main thing about using the denoising. So sort of remember this, and let's see which one will look better now that we're going back over. And I believe once I get done with this and sort of see what this looks like without the denoising, it looks about the same. I probably just need to increase the samples and that kind of stuff. So since you know this information now, I'm going to now pause this where it's at, and then I'm going to set up a few other settings, and I'll tell you about it later. And then I will, once the thing is done rendering, I will show you what it looks like. So I will be back when it is done. Or yeah, I'll see you in 3, 2, 1. Hello, now I'm back, as you already know, because it happened a second ago. So this is the final, this is my final render that I have, because there's a few things I wish I could fix, but this is like my 8th time making this video, so yeah, I'm not doing anything else to it. Well, actually, I'm going to show you how to do post-processing. Also, I added in this pink thing right here in the center, which I didn't show you how to do, but really, it's very simple. It's just a cube. It's just a cube that has an emission shader on it, which I already showed you how to do, so you can do that on your own really simply, very easy. So you don't really need my help to do that, so you can add that in on your own, very simple. I also added I re-put back that, where'd it go? I put that, oh here it is, the denoising texture back on, back on 0.5, because I needed to decrease the samples because I was in a hurry. Well, actually the samples are on 255, so I decreased them about half because it was on 512. That's how I would normally put it on samples, but with the denoising, I think it turned out perfectly fine. So obviously for yours you need to put it on higher settings, and also you need to watch a few of the videos that are in the description so you can learn a few more things about it, because using a Blender, it takes a while to learn it, and it is something that is not exactly easy to do. If you want to render your builds, you have to learn how. So it's going to be a bit painful for you, but it's not going to be that bad. So let's do some post-processing. Actually, these iron things look awesome right there. Wow, turned out really good. Anyways, let's continue on. So let's put this in post-processing, which I'm using a program called Krita. I'm gonna make a new thing for it, and it already has the settings I need. Krita is a really nice program for painting, but not really for what we're doing here, but it should be perfectly fine. So let's save as an image, and I already have an image named what I wanted to name it, because you know I had done the video 8 times and I've deleted like 8 pictures. Anyways, so let's the previous one was YT Tower Render. Now I'm going to name it something different, so YT Tower Render 1. So I'm keeping the last one because I think it looked better, which is sort of annoying since this is like my, you know, as I said a lot of times. Okay, 2, well actually 1. There we go. I'm just going to save as image, and there we go. Now we're going to go into Krita, and we're going to import that image. It's already over here, so I mean I know exactly where it is. YT Tower Render number 1, and let's put that in. Let's insert as a new layer, and here it is. Now I would recommend you can paint it, you know, you can do stuff like this and like that, and you can add in a whole lot of cool effects. And if that's not enough light for you, you know, you can like control this and select what the color is, and you can you know go straight in there and do some pixel art stuff to it, and add in a mix thing to it. You could zoom in and you could change your pixel size to like ridiculously small, and you can add in some better stuff to it. You can add in some more shading into it. In fact, I want to actually try that. You know, you could keep doing this. You could add in a bunch of these and increase the amount of light that's in here. The only issue with that is that it is a there we go, that's better. Oh goodness. But yeah, this is quite nice that you can do stuff like this. So I would recommend, you know, you can do stuff like this. I wouldn't exactly recommend doing it, because this is very time consuming. You can if you really want to, and you really want to add in some nice like color, sort of like you want everything to have that nice shading to it. But I mean, if you don't want to waste that much time doing that, you can also do stuff, oh goodness, I can't see my thing, here we go. If you don't want to do stuff exactly like that, then a better option would be to use the filter section, and I would recommend like you can do stuff in here like colors and enhance, but if you do enhance sharpen, as you can see it's a lot sharper, which this can look good. However, you can tell the difference. Like this is a lot more blurry, and you can definitely tell after having the sharpen on there, and it is quite nice to have that sharpening option, but it can make it look really weird. So I mean, maybe you could enhance it, and then you know, maybe do some oops, like this. See, nope, that didn't help. You know, you could add in some filters, like, let's see, let's enhance it, and then let's add in a, okay, there we go, let's sharpen, then we could blur it. Let's see, blur it just a little bit. Now just, we could blur it just ever so slightly. And I think that could actually improve it. If you know what you're doing, you can definitely make this look a whole lot better. Actually, I think we pretty much just undid exactly everything we just did with that one. But anyways, so that's like the sharpening stuff. The main thing I would use would be this here, because you can do stuff with this that you can't really do with the other ones. So let's move this out of the way first. So we can change this, and which this is the burn. So you can do some stuff with the shadows, make the shadows really crazy. Let's see, how does this look? So you can make the shadows a lot deeper, which actually can enhance it quite a lot. So you can also do the highlights, midtones, and the shadows, which is really awesome because that means you can get all three of it, which it's really cool. Let's just leave it at that. It's really cool. I'm going to do the shadows for mine. I like that. I want to decrease it a little bit. I just want to improve it, not cover everything up. I think that improves it quite a bit. Let's see, now I got some more stuff I need to adjust. Color balance is one of them. So let's see. Oh, we can also invert it. No, that does not look good. Anyways. So we can use this color balance to change the colors a little bit to be a bit of a different color. So if I did this, it makes everything a bit more red. You could also, you know, do something like this and make it like a yellow, magenta, weird color grading type stuff. But this is the shadows, so you can make the shadows to certain colors. I would recommend making them a bit more on the shadows, a bit more on the blue side, you know, and make it not really green, but then do something like this. Let's see, blue. There we go. I like this so far. So that makes everything a bit more blue. Then we can do the highlights, and maybe like more of a yellow, since that's sort of the point of the highlights. Let's see. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of highlights in here. I guess the brightest point is this. Oh, we can actually change the color of that. That's probably gonna look really weird if we do though, so let's not. The mid-tones, let's see what happens if we change that. Yep, that's what I want. I want to change the mid-tones, make this look a little bit more yellow. Maybe add, you know, something like that. I think I like that so far. Anything else I can add? No? Okay. Change this, make this go a little bit further back. There we go. Makes the yellow a bit more orange. So it goes from orange to blue, which are opposites, so that will look really cool. Though I do want to decrease the power of that yellow, so let's see how that will work. Let's adjust it. Color balance, or it was dodge. Well, that does not help at all. Highlights didn't help. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is post-processing, as you probably already know. So you can do a lot of stuff with this. It's really very, very handy. You can also add in clouds and fog to your builds as well. So if you did a build and you didn't want to add fog in on the like in Blender, because if you did that, that would actually waste a lot of your time, because it takes a lot longer to render that than doing it the other ways, which I can understand that being a bit irritating. Whoa, what was that? That was weird. Anyways, so that can be quite an irritating process. Let's see. I want to decrease the power of this. I think this is working. There we go. And it still has the purple power of it right there, but it just decreases the strength of this purple. I think this is going to look really nice once I get everything set up just how I need it. I believe I want it about like this. I think that looks really nice. Adds a bit of a shadow there. Nice pink. Yes, there we go. I believe I am done with this one. So you can adjust a few other things with this, which is really nice. And I think this is a good render overall. I think I really like this. The only thing I might actually do later on, I might enhance it and then see if there's anything I can do to enhance it and make it look better without doing anything too drastic. Because doing something with this does make it look really weird in my opinion, and so whenever you zoom in. So, you know, this might not be a good option. See, I think it's good enough like this. It just adds a bit of makes certain things darker. So this is pretty much it. This should be the thumbnail. So you probably you've probably already seen this, but yeah, Blender and rendering your builds, it takes a lot of practice. It's not something you can do just overnight, or, you know, something that you can learn in a day. It's something that will take a long time to learn. Unless you can learn ridiculously fast, but that's most likely it's going to take multiple days, and actually do really nice renders, like really nice renders, it's going to take, you know, maybe several weeks of work too, not just, you know, weeks of sitting around doing nothing. It's going to take a while, months. It's for some people to get good at Blender, it took them like a year or two of using it. Now obviously those people are ridiculously good, and you know, obviously it's not that difficult to get into it. So I think for the most part, to do decent renders that you're going to be proud of, it'll probably take you a week to learn. You know, of actually like learning every day as much as you can. You know, a week, 2 or 3 weeks, you know, that should be about the maximum. And after 3 weeks, I think you should be able to do pretty decent quality renders. Pretty decent, I mean, good enough that people will give you compliments on it. So it's not going to be that difficult, and, you know, over time you'll get a lot better. So I hope you have a great and fantastic day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, before I leave, if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to like it, because I know I do forget to like the videos that I watch. But don't also, you can share the video to people that you think will like it, and even if you don't know anyone that you think will like it, you can share on a few Discord servers, because, you know, I did work really ridiculously hard in this video. I thought it was going to be a quick video. This was not a quick video. I got more than I bargained for. Anyways, so if you want, you can share the video. It's not that big of a deal if you don't, because I'm going to be sharing it. So I mean, yeah, self-promotion at its best. Goodness gracious. Anyways, also, comment down below whether or not you want a video on how to transfer your worlds over to the Java edition from the Windows 10 edition, or from a multiplayer server on the Java edition. Also, comment down below if you want me to do more advanced rendering tutorials, because I can look up information on that and actually show you how to do that. And if you like the way I explain things, then I can start making videos on that. Now, this video was super long, so I know I missed a few things. So also in the description there is a massive amount of links that you can check out, and there's a lot of links to Blender Guru's channel, to a few other channels. One person, I can't pronounce their name, but that's besides the point. And all those videos you can check out, and one of them will be how to create fog. There's going to be Blender Guru's video, which is a almost must watch. If you want to get into Blender and rendering things, you almost have to watch his video, because it's like the best video on YouTube to learn how to use the basics of Blender. I mean, he got famous off of it, and it's for good reason, because it's one of the best videos I've ever seen, like one of the best tutorial videos as well. I mean, it's probably one of the best tutorial videos I've ever watched, and I watch a lot of tutorial videos. So I mean, I even base my YouTube channel off of those tutorials, because they work so well. So that's my recommendation. Check out those videos. Of course, I did amp them up a little bit. They're very good, but they take a long time to do, because, you know, it's Blender, so it takes a long time to learn how to use it. So I would recommend checking those out. And I believe that's pretty much it. Just check out the links in the description. Maybe put them in like a text document so you don't lose those links. Also, you know, you could share the video to yourself even, or maybe to a friend, and then you can just come back to the video. You're like, oh, what was the video called? Oh, I shared it to someone, I can click on it. You know, totally not trying to bribe you into sharing the video. Nope, not at all. Nope, don't trust me. Anyways, so then you can do that kind of stuff. So definitely check it out. This is a bit more of a longer video. I'm glad you actually stuck all the way to the end as well. You know, it's very good that you did that, but obviously you're interested in rendering, so of course you're going to stick to the end. Pretty much that is it. I don't think there's a lot more information I can really say. All the other information that I'm going to be that I forgot to mention in this video will most likely be in either the videos that I linked, or in the description or in the comments. So check those out, see if I commented or put anything in the description that I may have forgotten, because I'm sure I did forget quite a bit. The first time I tried doing this video, I forgot to tell you how to move, which, yeah, it's sort of important, so yeah. Anyways, have a great, wonderful, fantastic, sublime day, and God bless.